All right, welcome to For the Love of the Sport, where our mission is to educate athletes to be their best on stage and in life. And today's guest is MarieAnne Newman, who we call Mo, and she is an IFBB Figure Pro, the NPC Carolinas Vice Chairperson, IFBB Pro Judge, NPC National Level Judge. I could probably keep going. So I'll pause right there. How are you, Mo?
Good. Thanks for having me, Whitney.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Always love
appreciate
having
it.
you. Love having
Thank
you as a
you.
guest because you've just got so much knowledge of the sport, but not only the sport and life. And you like to talk about mindset, and so do I. So we'll jump into that in a second. I know we kind of covered your journey in competing and how you got started a little bit in season 1. So if anybody wants to check that out in more detail, go check out our episode in season 1. But Mo, just real briefly, when did you start competing in the sport?
Real quick, 1993. So for some of those watching, they might not even be born yet. But 93, real quick, we as a business at the NPC just had women's bodybuilding. It didn't evolve to what it is today. So I learned really quick that bodybuilding was awesome and fun. So wasn't for me because my body didn't equal women's bodybuilding. So I was very fortunate down the road to turn pro as a figure. Now that I'm retired, yeah, I love it, but I've been in and around this sport since 93 and got to start, I retired in 2015 and started judging back in 2009. So I kind of went to the other side of the fence, as I call the other side of the stage, and I like giving back for that now. So I've enjoyed transition into a judge from the competitor.
Yeah. So Mo has been one of the judges, either the head judge or one of the judges at the NPC, now IFBB Nashville Fit Show every
Congrats.
year. Thank you. And she always has so much good advice to give to competitors, just how to get better in the sport, posing, things like that. But today I kind of want to cover more about the mindset, the MindPrep, as Mo calls it. So Mo, let's just jump right in. What are you seeing in the sport today we'll start with the negative so we can end on a positive. What is your biggest pet peeve?
Well, it doesn't have to be a negative. It's just we're just going to address it,
Yeah. So what are you seeing in the sport today that could use some improvement? We'll put it that way.
Well, I wouldn't, maybe as a whole, maybe we should just enjoy the journey more. Always saying it's not necessarily the sport's fault, it's the individual. Like we have we take on this journey of prep, right? And human nature, we tend to look at all the good stuff in the very beginning, the exciting stuff, the new polished, brand new stuff, right? Because as humans, that attracts us to what we're about to bring on. But on the other end of that, we don't really speak about or address some of the hiccups and or speed bumps that might occur during this journey. And, just like anything in life, you're going to have that moment. But I think really the journey itself everyone's different. But, from say industry standard, anywhere from 9 to 12 weeks, most people, all the way to many more weeks, could be in the 20s, you're doing this journey for yourself in prep. And then you have a moment in time on stage. And prior to that moment on time when your journey stops, it's like you don't even have fun during that journey. And that's the longest part of it, and it's just like, what in the hell are we doing ourselves? So I like to say mind prepping along with your journey so you can enjoy that part, because it's a long process, and you can really find out a lot about yourself with that during the journey, because being a competitor, that moment on stage is very quick, right?
Yeah. I think that's I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like that's one of many mistakes that I made in the beginning. Is I was just so focused on getting to the stage, not necessarily, I didn't really like the posing and the glam part. I liked the training, but I was so focused on getting to the stage and maybe a placing that I didn't enjoy the journey. And it became really difficult at that point when I was only going for a placing, laser focused on that. And if I didn't get exactly what I wanted, then my mindset was just wrecked after that point. And it wasn't a fun
you become
process.
Miserable. Yeah. And it's sad because you wanted to sign up for this, to have fun, to take on some cool new adventure, and then we ruin it for ourselves by not allowed, we're chasing that placement. You guys, if you chase your placement, you will be miserable. I'm not saying not be competitive, because I was one of the most competitive little boogers out there, you know, but I accepted some of those things that I couldn't change. Okay. You can prepare yourself and get yourself ready for a division. We meet the criteria, we judge on the criteria that NPC and IFBB gives us, right? So it's nothing personal. That's one thing I think I adopted, and I'm very happy for doing so. I didn't allow that division or whatever the sport become my identity. You know, I didn't chase, I chased a placement as in I want to do and win. Yes, of course. Who doesn't? Who signs up for this? Say, I want to be last. Nobody, right? Everybody wants to win. That's why we're doing it, you know, but I didn't always win. I won, you know, I won a lot, but I didn't always win. But that didn't determine how I was going to feel. You know, I always was happy. Even my husband, you know, Jim always was so excited when I came backstage, and I got second a lot, you know, especially chasing my pro card. And when I came out from backstage to him, like, I was still happy, you know, because I didn't allow the judgment to ruin me. You know, it was just a moment in time. The judges had to pick the best physique for that moment in time. Now, at the moment of time, it wasn't me, apparently, you know, at that time, but I didn't allow that to determine who I was, how I felt. And I think if we can train ourselves, train our brains to help us with that, like you were saying, it won't be a miserable journey for ourselves.
That is so important. I'm so glad that you said that. The biggest thing that I got from everything that you just said was that you didn't let it become your identity, your whole identity. Competing being a competitor, that is part of your identity, but it's not your whole identity. And I think that's the key. A lot of competitors, like if you plan on almost, I don't even want to say career, but if you kind of want to make a career out of competing, after a couple shows, it becomes your identity, because you have to be so in the mindset and disciplined while you're on prep. So it's really hard to take a step back and remember, hey, I am more than just this, you know, this season of competing in my life. There's more than that. I can use it as a great part of me where I can teach others to be self-disciplined and things like that, but it's not all of you. And I think, well, I know we've talked about post-show blues before, but that was a major thing. That's why I competed so much, like 5-6 shows a year, because the come down after stage would be like horrible, and I would lose my identity. And so well, of course, what do I do to get back into it and fix it? Well, let's do another prep. Let's compete again. And I'm fine again, because this is who I am, or I thought so at the time. So I'm glad you brought that up. If competitors can adopt that mindset early and realize that it's a great part of them, but not all of them, I think that'll eliminate a lot of depression and miserable times like that.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I want to give back to people. It's not that I'm better than anybody. It was just one thing that I made sure I went and made on purpose. My passion was to help myself so I can help somebody else, because I knew this wasn't going to last forever. You know, I never was fortunate enough to go further in, you know, I didn't go to the Olympia or anything like that, Miss Olympia. But even that, I knew a lot of Olympians that were miserable mentally and came to me, and we chit-chatted behind the scenes. I'll never say names, you know, but I helped them because it was sad, because that was all of them and they were losing them as a whole. We got to remember really who we are, and this is a part of us. And if you can make it a part of your journey, I loved it. I'm so happy that I got in this sport. You know, it helped my life, you know, it did. But I've seen too many people, unfortunately, it ruined, you know, they allowed it. They ruined themselves, wasn't the sport, you know, it's never the sport's fault, it's your fault. But if someone can catch that early, by all measures, I'd love to help them, you know.
Yeah, and I think this plays into a question that I actually got just recently from a competitor, and she was asking, you know, how do you deal with the amount of anxiety that you have in prep? And I remember some preps where I didn't deal with anxiety at a big level, and then other times I would. And so I wanted to get your opinion on it. Like, if somebody's having major anxiety during their prep, what would your advice be in dealing with that?
Well, a lot of times and I don't even want to say it's the prep's fault, right? Going back to that blaming game, it's not the sport, it's not the prep, it's what's going on in our moment, you know, what's going on in our life that we're allowing our mind to race. Okay, anxiety basically is racing of the mind ahead of schedule, right? It's like we're thinking in the future, like, I got to do this, I must do that, blah, the things that we do to ourselves. Like I talked about the power of words and how we talk to ourselves. And it's just like, I must do this, I must do that, I got to do this. And I was guilty of it in the past, so I can understand. I would say definitely, you don't have to do a damn thing. You don't have to do this. Now you want to say, I want to do this. I want to do cardio. No, I need to do cardio and to lose body fat, that kind of thing. I think we need to simplify versus looking at the whole thing. A lot of times when we look at the whole picture, it is easy to get overwhelmed when anxiety kicks in with that. But I think if we take baby steps, first, it would help us to simplify, because once we simplify, it makes things easier. I think as human nature, we just have a tendency to do that. Society kind of conditions us to do that. And if we can just pull back, baby steps, that's something I do. Because in the morning, if your mind races, the whole day is probably pretty shot, right? So in the morning, what I would do is have a ritual that I would allow myself to do in the morning, whatever yours may be. Made sure I was thankful and grateful for just waking up. A lot of people forget that little easy thing. That sets your mindset into a more positive format than going to the negative, because it's pretty easy for the mind to go negative. It's crazy how as humans, we have a choice of light and dark or good and bad, and we can definitely go off track to the bad so easy. So
yeah,
I wouldn't say it's harder. I think it's hard if we choose that route, because then it's a snowball effect, So I would say definitely have some good daily rituals to put in place so that anxiety gets tapered back in, because it's not that we're never going to receive it. And it's not because you're on a journey, it's because what your mind's doing and you're allowing it. Because I'm sure that anxiety will come if you were just working, or, if you're just living outside of journey and prep. So still simplify, baby steps, get your daily rituals in check, and that'll help to offset some of that anxiety. And on the other end, depression too, because depression, it seems like brains tend to think in the past, anxiety bring, thoughts of the future. So the moment of time, like I always say, let's think about now, and quit racing ahead with the anxiety or staying in the past with the depression. I'll never forget, a long time ago, they always say dogs, which are my favorite creatures, they help us remember we're in the moment now. They don't think about time as in like, let's enjoy now. Yeah. And I know my dog helps me tremendously to kind of bring it back in and enjoy now. And it's funny how we try to achieve so much, which is a good thing. But once, like, for instance, your goal is to go pro, and you get pro, and you never like say, oh my God, I went pro. It's what can I do the next pro win, and it's sad. So we go and achieve all this and never even give ourselves the gratitude or appreciation of, hey, you did good, thumbs up. Let's enjoy that moment. I remember when I turned pro, I was so fortunate. When I got interviewed right off stage, it was a guy named Quincy Taylor. He's a IFBB bodybuilder back in the day. I loved him. And he was like, don't forget, in this moment of time, you're a rock star. Don't forget, enjoy the moment. And I remember that, like I was on cloud nine, allowed that cloud to last a while. I was proud of myself for all that hard work instead of just skipping over it and what's the next thing. So maybe that might help.
Stop and celebrate the wins. That's so true. We accomplish one thing and then we just move on to the next. We don't even stop and realize, hey, I just accomplished something that most people can't accomplish in life. So stop and celebrate the wins.
And you worked really hard for it, so you should pat yourself on the back, because why the hell do anything then if you're not going to be excited and proud of yourself for it?
I like also simplify, like just stay in the present and simplify, because anxiety is worrying about the future. You're thinking about the future. And I've seen this like amplified times 10 in competitors versus normal people. I feel like, because it's almost like you have to be like, check the box, do this, you got to do this, book your hotel room, buy your NPC card, do this. And like your brain starts going into overdrive and you start thinking about, I have gotten questions about what color is the backdrop going to be, so my bikini that I get doesn't clash with it.
All right,
I said we have
there's that racing mind.
Houston, we have a problem. It's gone too far. This is something you do not need to worry about. But I remember when I competed, I don't think my brain ever went that far, but we start thinking, we try to like cross our T's and dot every I, and it gets out of control. So bring it back, simplify. I like you saying simplify, live in the present. And you're not going to get it perfect your first time, and it's okay. Like if you forget something, you will figure it out, and somebody will be there to help you. You always get through it, like no matter what it is. So I'm glad that you shared your advice on that.
Thank you, dear.
So as far as just as a judge, as a chairperson, you are heavily involved in the industry from every angle. So what are you seeing? What is the best thing that you're seeing in the industry right now?
One of the good things I'm seeing right now is the growth of the MPC and IFBB. We have a lot of true novices over the last few years. You know, we've been asked, you know, show of hands, and it's just amazing how many are first timers. And you as a promoter, you understand, you know, how important that is. So the popularity of it, and obviously the love of it from people like you and I sharing this, that is inviting people into coming to give a test drive, you know. So I'm very excited about the growth of the sport eternally, from the true novice athletes to also the tremendous amount of effort, time, and love that promoters like yourself are putting into their shows to attract these new people in. Back when I was competing, and I'm talking like in the earlier years, we were fortunate. We were lucky enough we got a t-shirt and a thank you, you know, like promoters didn't put a lot into it, you know, which they are doing today. And with the business sense of the MPC and IFBB leading us, it's been so great to really, the brand is doing so well, and we're giving back so much, and the promoters are adopting that, and they're noticing there's a lot of competition out there. The athletes have a lot to choose from now. And I think that's really important, because I used to have to travel lengths, you know, far to go compete because we didn't have anything in my surrounding area. And now with the growth of it, and the promoters like yourself really amping up and really delivering an A+ game back behind their show, is really attracting the competitors to come give it a shot. So I'm really proud of that. The true novice, even the novice, you know, which is not your necessarily first time, but you know, you aren't placing in the top 10 at the national level or winning your class, allows you still to have like a junior level to compete in before and or joining the open, is really grown also. So it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel like, and I don't know how it was way back when, but I know how it was when I started competing in 2009. And it just seemed like there was just no help. I mean, there wasn't.
Or not much, huh? Because, because I turned pro in 2009 in figure, and there was not a lot of pro shows to be had even back then. I mean, there were some, but not many. You had to travel.
Yeah, and even getting information on the shows, like that might have a web page up at that time, but it was just so hard to get information. And I just remember thinking, gosh, this is very difficult. This could be a lot easier. And so that's why I just do episodes like this, interviews with judges in the sport, people in the sport that know more than all these athletes coming in, so they can learn, because this is something that we never got when we were competing. And it's just so valuable.
Yeah, there was a thing called magazines that we used to wait on
to
see who won.
So long after that, something had already happened, a magazine comes out months later, you're like, okay, this is what happened. Okay. And luckily we had the internet today.
Yeah, really.
So you've already given so much good advice, but to end the interview, I always just ask again, what is the one piece of advice, if you wish you would have had when you were competing, what could you give that to competitors now?
Well, I think we kind of brushed up on it a moment ago, that I didn't then enjoy the journey, you know, that kind of thing, which I'm glad I've adopted that prior to leaving the sport competing wise, because I've noticed that a lot of people, like we touched on the anxiety part, I wish people would realize that you choose to do this sport, so don't complain about the prep while you're doing it, right? So maybe if you can allow yourself to have some fun during this, that you actually will enjoy it and be able to do it for a long period of time, I've learned a lot about myself, and competing. It was one of the best gifts I think I gave myself, was competing and being a competitor. I think a lot of people could do that and grow internally, enjoy that journey, and really, realize you're signing up to do this, you're paying to do this. You're not paying your mortgage or your rent on this. So allow yourself to have some fun and enjoy that journey, because otherwise you're going to be miserable.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
just to piggyback off of that, we are doing something that is still considered pretty weird, but it's considered weird to most people because the level of discipline and commitment it takes to compete is just not normal in the world today. And so people are naturally going to look to you as a role model, even if it's your first show, because you are going for something that seems so unattainable to most of the world. So you don't want to walk around miserable, like you have to eat this or that. It's like you get to do this, and people are looking up to you, whether you realize it or not. So,
or they eventually will, admit it later, won't they?
Yep. So enjoy the process. I love that.
Yeah, because it's weird. Why is cardio, lifting weights, and eating chicken so foreign? But you can be a lard butt, be lazy, and eat pizza all the time, and it's totally acceptable. That's why I think the yous and eyes of the world, I'm glad we're doing stuff like this, because we can change that conditioning that society has tried to deliver upon us as human beings, that I just won't accept, and it's not that people they might be ugly about it at first, but once you educate them, be like, well, ask them, well, what's so foreign about chicken and rice? Can you explain that to me? And that usually shuts them up, So just don't allow that peanut gallery to affect you. Educate them a little bit. You don't have to be a smart aleck about it, but just allow them to answer for their stupid questions, like ask them. That's what I do, make them critically think back, like, what's so foreign about tuna fish, So maybe I think as a whole, if we all ate cleaner, bodybuilding is a great thing. There's a lot of smart people in this business, and they're healthy, smart, and most people are just ignorant on the subject. So I like to educate them on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Mo, you've had so much good advice. I could just keep talking to you for forever. But
I've enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. We'll wrap it up there for now. Mo will be at the Nashville Fit Show on August 20th in Nashville, Tennessee this year, and I can't wait. So if people want to find you, where can they find you?
Well, they can find me on, obviously everyone's on social media, so my Instagram page, but it's my real name, MarieAnne Newman, on there. But also, if you will, on YouTube, I have my own YouTube channel, and it's Mo's, M-O, Mo Newman's World, Mo Newman's World. I'm really doing videos on certain things like the MindPrep, interesting ideas. I'm also going to start a new segment of women 50 and over, still kicking butt within our industry and outside the industry. So I'm going to start talking to some people, and there's some really good names that said that they would do it with me. So I'm real excited. I'm not going to say anything yet, but that will be coming soon too. So if you'll subscribe to that channel, that would be awesome. I'd appreciate it.
All right. I will be sure to link it in the description of this interview so everybody can come follow you. All right.
And come compete and come see Whitney putting on a great show in August. I'm excited for being there. Thanks for having me again too.
Thank you so much, Mo.
Bye, everybody.